أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. Good, like, okay, you got mine? Yes, Mike.
Good evening, everyone. It's nice to be here. I'd just like to start by thanking the Griffith Friends of the Library for inviting me tonight to come and speak. Before I begin, can I just have a show of hands from the crowd of anyone that's faced a major struggle or a trauma in their life? There's a few hands. I can empathise with you because I know exactly what that is like. I think what I have to say tonight will resonate with most of you in the room. My story is one of hope and resilience. It is about forgiveness and the importance of family, but it is also about dealing with change and adapting to change. It's about teamwork and good communication, and by using those things, my family and myself managed to pull off the unimaginable in the face of death. I have 50 minutes tonight to talk to you about my 462 days experience as a hostage, which is impossible. I could sit up here with a mouthful of marbles talking for 3 days under wet cement, and I still couldn't actually tell you the whole story. And to be honest, captivity is boring. It is like Groundhog Day every single day. So what I want to do is give you a quick insight. I went to Mogadishu in August 2008 as a passionate, probably somewhat green freelance photojournalist. I wanted to cover a story, a humanitarian crisis, a food crisis, a famine that was about to hit the country. For those of you that don't know anything about Somalia or Mogadishu, Somalia was a beautiful country up until 1989. Mogadishu was classed as the Paris of Africa. There was a dictator, Saeed Barre. He was overthrown in '89, and then basically the country became the basket case of Africa. Anyone seen Black Hawk Down? That's pretty much what had occurred for 18 years until the day that I arrived. That is what Mogadishu used to look like up until 1989. If you just see this, keep an eye on this building here. This is one of my photographs. So that building is actually this building just here. So I flew in for a 7-day trip to cover a story because any longer than that was going to be dangerous. I knew there was a risk of death. There was certainly a risk of kidnapping. I got off that plane and realised that I shouldn't have been in the country. There were no white Westerners. Every single aid organisation had pulled their foreign staff out of the country. There wasn't really any operating governments in Mogadishu. So like I said, I'd gone for 7 days. 4th day in, we made a decision to travel out of Mogadishu towards Afgoya to a place where there were 5 internally displaced camps. In those camps there was somewhere between 500 to 600,000 people living in conditions of squalor that had fled from Mogadishu. En route to getting to that camp, we were meant to pick up an extra security detail, 3 guys with AK-47s, which meant we were going to have 5 guys in the car basically guarding us the whole day that we were actually at the camp. We pulled up at what we thought was our security detail. I had absolutely zero situational awareness. I was looking at the back of my camera, deleting images from the day before as we came to a stop, and then looked over my right shoulder to see an AK-47 about 2 inches from the window. Behind that, a guy with a masked face. Quickly scanning around the car, I saw another 5 or 6 of these guys all pointing guns at our vehicle, and then the doors were flung open. 5 of us in the vehicle were ripped out, walked to the side of the road, and then pushed face down into the sand with a gun at the back of the head. And very quickly, all 5 of us were bundled into the back seat. They jumped in, about 5 of them, with guns, and then we took off across country until we were taken to a compound. That was day 1 of my hostage ordeal. Like I said, I don't have time. What I want to do is give you, a quick breakdown. So from day 1 to day 10, I span out of control, completely out of control with depression, very negative thoughts, thought I was going to be killed, thought both Amanda and myself were going to be killed. I converted to Islam. Day 10, day 11, I got to speak to my sister. I wouldn't be given that privilege, one of the most simple of human rights, to speak to your family for another 11 months before I would actually get to talk to my brother, which was that phone call. After about 8 weeks, Amanda and I were separated. It was really a way for them to conquer and divide not only us but our families. They could certainly apply pressure. We were separated, I was told. If I was found talking, or if we were found communicating, then basically they would beat us. At about the 5-month mark, our 3 Somalian guys that were working with us actually disappeared from the house. We were told that they had been released, and we later found out that, well, we were actually told that they had been executed by the group Al-Shabaab. So they were taken out in the morning, beheaded, and we had no reason but to believe that. What I want to talk about today, or this evening, is that 5-month mark when Amanda and I made a very quick decision to escape from our captors. It sounds like a Hollywood movie. It was probably the most exciting 25 minutes of my life and terrifying 25 minutes of my life that I will ever have in. I don't think I will have a period like that again. Like I said, when Amanda and I were first taken, I spiraled out of control. I did what was human nature, and basically when the shit hits the fan, and that's what happened, I found myself, my life had completely changed. I thought I was going to die. I didn't take responsibility for my actions. Human nature was to find someone else to blame. And the only other person that was there with me was Amanda, and I basically blamed her for where my life had now basically found itself. It was easier for me to say, you said come to Somalia, this is your fault. So I actually started to push away from Amanda. I became very introverted, very fatalistic, didn't want to talk, didn't want to engage with Amanda. And at one point she pulled me up, I think it was about 3-4 weeks into our captivity. And she said to me, you actually need to be a little bit more positive, and you start to need to engage with me. Because if you don't, if you continue to have these negative thoughts, what's going to happen is a negative thought will turn into a negative action. I was thinking, I'm going to die, I'm going to die, I'm going to die. And where the energy flows, where the mind goes, the energy flows. And I didn't like hearing it. Didn't like hearing it from Amanda, but I woke up the next day and I gave her a massive hug and I said, look, I'm sorry that I've been pushing you away. We actually need to work as a team. So for about 4 weeks we were together. It was great. We were looking after each other. We were this support network. And then 2 months in, we were separated. So they walk in one morning, basically ransack our bags, take anything of value, and then I'm frog marched out of the room and I'm put in the room beside Amanda. So this is the house where we were eventually taken to. And this is a shot. When I actually came home from captivity, I went onto Google Earth and I found this on Google Earth. I knew we were held somewhere in the north of Mogadishu. So this is actually the house, the compound that we were kept in, and this is a mosque quite close to us. So Amanda and I were kept in this house. We called it the Lighthouse. So you'll see up here in room 3, this is where Amanda and I were first held together. When we were separated, I was put in the room beside Amanda. We had windows, external windows, and then this room here was the bathroom. Only Amanda and I were allowed to use this bathroom. Our captors, the 13 of them, used to use this bathroom, and these doors here were always closed. So I talked about communication. Amanda and I were separated. We worked out ways very quickly, I guess, as any prisoner does, of how to communicate. Their biggest mistake that they did was actually putting us in with a dividing wall. Amanda and I started off with knock codes, basically knocking on the wall just to say, I'm here, we're okay, we're still together. We became more brazen, and we used to leave little notes in the bathroom, very similar to this, 11 simple words that were so incredibly powerful. I love you, stay positive, we will see our families again. So we used to hide these little notes in crevices. We had a code to tell each other that there was a note in the bathroom, and we had a code to tell each other that we'd read it and destroyed it because we didn't want to get caught with contraband. So we became even more brazen. Our doors were never locked, but we had these 2 windows, external windows. We used to stand at our windows with our Qurans, pretending that we were studying the Quran, and we could whisper to each other and actually hear each other. This is how we basically talked, and we really looked after each other. So like I said, 5 months in, 3 Somalians that were working with us, taken from the house. The next morning, young Jamal comes in, one of my captors, with a bag of food. He throws it on the floor, and I say to him, Jamal, where's Abdi? Where are our two drivers? What's happened to them? And he said, they've been released. And I was like, that's amazing. That's great news. Finally, after 5 months, something's happening. Later that afternoon, Abdullah, one of the guys that scared me, absolutely terrified me. I don't think I've ever met someone that was filled with pure evil. He actually walked in, and I said to him, Abdullah, it's amazing that Abdi and our 2 drivers have gone back to their families. And he laughed at me, laughed right in my face, and he said, they didn't go back to their families. They were handed over to Al-Shabaab, a group that is linked with Al-Qaeda, and this morning all 3 of them were executed. They were beheaded. And Amanda and I talked about this, and we said, well, if they were released, our group was in absolutely no rush to move us. And we thought if they had gone back to their families, they would be telling people where we were being held. And our group was in no rush to move us at all. And they were petrified about us being found by another group or a potential rescue. So Amanda and I came to the conclusion that yes, they had been killed. And if they were going to kill 3 Muslim men who were Muslim from the day they were born, what were they going to do with 2 white Westerners who had converted for 4.5 months? So we put a plan in to escape. And for me, the escape was actually taking back control. I call it my 25 minutes of consciously created freedom, because I don't believe that most of us are conscious, and I don't believe that most of us are free. And this was the first time in 5 months that I was free and I was conscious. I had looked at our bathroom window as a potential way of escaping. It had lattice-style bricks that were stacked on top of each other, and it then had 5 one-inch Rio bars basically running across in front of those bricks. And I've built a few houses and I have a bit of a construction background, and I knew I could dig out the blocks. The problem was these reinforced bars that were going to be core-filled on either side. So I thought I'd go and have a bit of a closer look, and as I stood up on the toilet and I grabbed onto one of the bars to pull myself up, I noticed that the bar actually slid. So I started banging it from side to side until I could just see the end inside the side of the blocks, and I managed to bend it and pull it out. And I thought, right, all I've got to do is remove another one of these, take out the blocks, and we're free as a bird. Now, I couldn't have done this by myself. I had a trusty little friend, which was this big, Shawshank Redemption style, digging out mortar. How did I do this by myself? I couldn't have. It took teamwork. Amanda sat in her room with her doors closed, with the tiniest little pinhole in the metal door, and she used to sit there and watch, and if anyone came near this front door, she would bang on the door, which was our sign that we needed to go to the toilet. So I would sneak out of my room, terrified, absolutely terrified, running backwards and forwards as I dug out these blocks. And if I heard her bang, I would race back in, making sure that there was no dust or anything there. So it took me 2.5 days with my heart in my throat the whole time, knowing that if I got caught, they were going to beat the living death out of me. So I finally get this hole open, 2 bars, and I say to Amanda, right, we're good to go. She said, right, let's go tonight, 7:30, straight after the final prayer. And when I had been able to sit in the courtyard, sitting down here, doing my washing once a week, I was watching the planes fly in. And I obviously thought, that's got to be Mogadishu Airport. That's the international airport. It's controlled by African Union forces. If I can get there, we're safe. So right on 7:30 prayer, Amanda knocks, bang, bang, bang. I'm sitting on my mattress, terrified, absolutely terrified, glued, can't move. Cannot find the courage to overcome my fear. And the plan was Amanda would knock, she would walk past my room, I would pick up my bag, I would open my door quietly, and I would sneak to the bathroom with her. And I can hear her walk past, and I'm still glued to the floor, can't move. And I can hear her in the bathroom, pacing, pacing, pacing. In her mind, she's probably going, where the hell is he? And after about 30 seconds, she actually comes back from the bathroom, opens my door and says, what the hell are you doing? And I said, I'm terrified, I'm terrified. She said, we've got to do this, we've got to do this. I said, right, go back to your room, wait 20 minutes and bang again, and I'll try and find the courage. So I'm sitting there, psyching myself up, because I've got no idea what's outside that window. Who's out there, who's carrying guns, no idea how we're actually going to get to the airport. It's about a 15-kilometre run at night. So I hear Amanda bang, rap, rap, rap. She walks past my door, I grab my bag, I open it, and we slide down the hallway into the bathroom. Throw my bag on the floor, I take out the 2 metal rods, I take out the 5 Besser Block breezeway bricks and put them on the side, then boost Amanda up from behind, got my hands on her bum as I'm watching her contort. Can't get out this small little hole, contorting herself for about, feels like minutes, must be about 10 seconds, and she says, I can't fit. And I say, you gotta fucking fit, you gotta fit. And then mine goes, well, if she can't fit, big guy, you got no chance. So I said to her, right, go back to your room. She said, what about my bag? I said, no, you leave it in my room. There's a chance that we're going to get caught. Just leave it. I will go back and I will fix this massive hole in the bathroom. Because the young guys used to come down occasionally and check the bathroom. So I walk back to my room. It's like, how am I going to do this? And I'd learn little bits of Somali, and I'd learn a little bit of Arabic in those first 5 months. Young Abdullah, the guy that terrified me, is on duty that night. It's like, how am I going to bluff him? So I bang on the door, and he opens it, and he looks at me, what? So I'm keeled over going, Muskosha, Muskosha, which means toilet. And he's like, go. So I run into the bathroom, I look at this hole, and I'm like, how do I put this jigsaw puzzle back? And I find this tiny little piece of timber that in Africa they use to clean their teeth. And I go, okay, I can use that as little wedges to hold all of these bricks back together. So I managed to get the blocks back, go back to my room, and this takes about 3 or 4 goes of going backwards and forwards. Finally get back into my room, collapse, and I have the most amazing sleep I've ever had in captivity. 12 hours solid. I am physically and mentally spent. And I wake up in the morning and I say to Amanda, right, I'm going to remove another bar for us to get out. Go to the bathroom, do it. Come back and I say, okay, we're good to go. We're good to go, but I'm changing the plan because I don't like our plan. Our plan sucks. So I said to Amanda, if I was in trouble in a Western country and there wasn't a police station, the first place that I would run to is a church because surely people there will help me. And I said, we've been Muslim for 4.5 months and there's a mosque. There is a mosque right behind the house. And the call to prayer 5 times a day was right on top of us. So I said to Amanda, today's Thursday, tomorrow's Friday. Friday being the holiest day in Islam. We're going to wait till Friday. We're going to wait until the place is packed. There's an imam there. Everyone's having a party at the mosque and we're going to be there. We're going to just cause mayhem. And Amanda goes, love the plan, but we've got to do it today. And I said, no, Amanda, like we can't do it today. And she said, what happens if they move us tonight? We lose our opportunity to escape. And I said, right, you're right. So I said, 12:30, same routine. During the morning, we had a chat. We're both standing out our window, and I said, Amanda, I know a few months back you were taken out and they did a fake assassination on you. And you said that there were lots of people in the street with lots of guns. I said, I just want to ask you, before we do this, do you feel comfortable with the fact that we potentially going to die today? And she said, yeah. And she then asked me the question. She said, do you feel comfortable? And I said, well, yes, because for the last 5 months, I've had absolutely no control of my life, no control whatsoever. And if I'm going to take a bullet, then I'm actually going to make the bastards work for it. So I said, let's do it. So 12:30 prayer, Amanda goes out of her room, I follow her, take out the 3 bars, take out the blocks, push Amanda up, actually see her slip and disappear from the window. And I'm like, you beauty, we're going to do this. We're actually going to make these guys look like idiots. I get out the window, jump down onto the ground, barefoot, feel sand between my toes. First time I'd actually felt solid earth or Mother Earth under my feet. So much adrenaline, so much blood pumping around my body. My 2-fingered salute from the Australians to the Somalians quickly changes to terror as the blood begins to drain, as the child next door to us starts screaming something in Somali. So what I think is we're going to have maybe a minute head start turns out to be about a 5-second head start. So my brain freezes, goes to cotton wool, can't think under the stress that I'm under. I pull on my shoes and I run like a chicken with its head cut off. We've come out of the house right here at the back. I start running down here. I stop momentarily. I look left and I know that's back to the compound gates. I think, well, that's pointless. That's just going to run straight back into them. There's briar bush here. I can't run forward. And I start running down past our house here. As I get to the edge of our next door neighbour's house, he's actually standing at his gates. And my mind computes him say, what are you doing? In English. I just keep running, sprinting. I have no idea where Amanda is, absolutely terrified. I come sprinting down here. I run past a woman who's carrying her shopping. She drops a bag and actually runs away from me as I overtake her. It's just like, get out of my way. I come down, I get to here, I look right, I see the mosque, I see the minaret. I see our saviour, and my body goes left, because I look left and I can see a bitumen road with lots of people. So I start running down here, sprinting. No idea where Amanda is. She's obviously behind me because I hear her say, what are you doing? I don't know what I'm doing. I do a U-turn, I run back past Amanda, I come up to here, and by that stage our next door neighbour is at that T intersection, and he says, "Do you need help?" And I just grab him under the arm. Amanda grabs him on the other side, and we say, "Can you please take us to a mosque?" And he goes, "Yeah, the mosque is just there." So we sprint along here, we come up these side steps, and just as we enter the mosque, unbeknownst to me, two of our young guards, Jamal and Abdullah, with their AK-47s, one of them fires a shot directly over the top of the mosque as a warning shot. So I come in here, like I said, I'd learn a bit of Somali, I'd learn a bit of Arabic, and I walk in and I start this verbal diarrhea of I win, I win, I win, which in English is please help, please help, please help. And then I start saying, Wanahay Muslim, Wantahay Muslim. I am Muslim, we are Muslim. Bismillahi ar-Rahmani ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillah. So I start reciting the Quran. I say the profession of faith. And these people are looking at me saying, he's speaking Arabic, he's speaking the book of God. And two older gentlemen come up and they speak English and they say, "Who are you?" And I manage to say, "I'm Nigel Brennan, I'm a freelance photojournalist, I've been kidnapped." Just as Amanda says who she is and what's happened, I then get a coward punch from behind. So Jamal has basically smacked me in the back of the head, which sort of knocks me off not knocks me off my feet, but I launch forward, turn around, he's got a gun, his AK-47 pointing at me. Abdullah grabs Amanda by the hair and is trying to drag her back out of the door we've come from. Jamal grabs me by the arm. I've ripped the sleeve straight off my shirt and back away. And the most amazing thing then happens. These three guys that had spoken English to us actually grab these two guys. They don't have any weaponry, no guns, just their hands. And they grab these two kids by the throat and actually push them up against the wall on the side of the mosque. And while that's happening, this circle, I guess, of comfort comes around us, and they say, "You're Muslim," and I'm like, "Wanahay Muslim, Wantahay Muslim." Hysterical, absolutely hysterical. Can't get the words out quick enough. And they say, "Do you want to pray?" And I said, "I'd love to pray, would love to pray. I've never prayed in a mosque before. And as a Muslim, it's my duty to pray in a mosque with everyone, so let's pray." Push me into the middle of the mosque. Before I get to go down, do my ritual prayers, they say, "No, you can't pray, you've got to go into the pulpit of the mosque." So we're pushed into the pulpit of the mosque. We're sitting there. I start pulling out my Quran. This beautiful book here is the only thing that I have from captivity. I managed to convince my captors before I was released to bring, this was the Quran I was given on about day 7 of my captivity. It's the only thing that I came out of. I came back home with. So this is in my bag, my camera bag that obviously has no cameras, but it's got all my religious books. So I'd read 1,000 Splendid Suns. It was one of the books I was given in captivity from a care package my family sent. And in that it talks about kissing the book and tapping it to your forehead. So I start doing this thinking, this is obviously what Muslim people do. And they're looking at me going, "What's this crazy guy doing? He's kissing and touching it to his head." And I'm pulling out books, and the crowd is getting larger and larger. Obviously Bush Telegraph's gone around, and people have said in the neighbourhood there's two white Westerners. Some of those people had never seen a white person before. So more people are coming in, more eyes are looking at us. Everyone that comes in is like, "Assalamu alaikum," and I'm like, "Walaikum assalam. How is your Islam?" "Wanahay Muslim, Wantahay Muslim, Bismillah," and it's this verbal diarrhea. I've got the pastiest mouth in the world. I can hardly get the words out. I'm looking around and I can see 2 windows on either side and a window behind us in the pulpit. And then I see this big black figure coming to the left-hand side. And I say to someone, "Can you guys please close the windows?" Because I'm concerned one of our guys is just going to stick a gun through the window and shoot us. So they close the windows. Amanda and I are sitting there. A minute later, this black figure pushes through the crowd, and it's a woman. It's a woman who pushes her way through all of these men into the pulpit of the mosque, where we're basically kneeling on the floor, and she comes in and she sits between Amanda and I. It's like, okay, it's another woman, this is great, like more people, the more the merrier, safety in numbers. And she's trying to converse. She doesn't speak English, she only speaks Somali and Arabic, and she's trying to speak to Amanda, looking at me. Amanda actually communicates with her through sign language. So by this stage, Jamal and Abdullah have taken up sort of sentry posts at the front of the pulpit. And Amanda points to Abdullah and then points to herself and then uses the international sign for fornication. And this woman starts wailing, absolutely screaming something in Somali. And it's like, what's just going on? I have no idea what's going on. And then at one point, I see the crowd start to part, and there's this guy wearing blue shirt, massive big beard, AK-47 around his chest. Pushes through the crowd, comes up to me and says, "Assalamu alaikum." And I say, "Walaikum assalam." And he says, "Wana hai Muslim?" And I said, "Wanta hai Muslim, we're Muslim." And then he speaks to me in English and he says, "And how is your Islam?" And I said, "Islam, I love Islam. Islam's beautiful." And then he takes this gun off his shoulders and kneels down and says, "This AK-47 is the gun of the Muslim man. You're my brother in Islam. Take my gun." And then he walks back. So I'm now sitting with an AK-47 across my lap, and I country boy, I know how to shoot a 303 and a 410 and 22 and stuff like that. And I have this manic thought going, how do I take it off safety and how many bullets are in the magazine, because I'm just going to start spraying people, because I'm actually now feeling that we're going to end up dying. So I'm going to actually take some people with me. We're all going to die. There's going to be a bloodbath. And then the next thought I have is, actually, I never want to know what it's like to kill another human being. I never want to have to live with that. So I pick up his gun and I say, "I am your brother in Islam, and it's against my religion to kill another Muslim. And we're all Muslim here, so I have no need for your gun. Take your gun." And he said, come with me, and I'll take you to safety." And humans, we do have intuition. We're all animals. And something was telling me, trust this guy. But I was too frozen by fear, and I said, "No, we're waiting, an imam is coming, and he's going to interview us. So we're going to wait for that." And he said, "Okay." And he walked out, turned around, walked out, crowd sort of enveloped us again. And then the fear in the room just changed. All of a sudden, this semicircle of people that were surrounding us started to run with terror. And as they began to spread out, I could see between their legs as guys started piling in with AK-47s, masked gunmen, not our captors. This was obviously different groups who had come to claim us as their prize. And I thought, we're going to be responsible for a lot of innocent people dying today. And then the strangest thing happened. Everyone stopped and they enveloped us again. It was like, okay, that's weird. And at another point, they all ran. And it happened 2 or 3 times. There was a lot of chaos going on, lots of yelling, lots of screaming. And then I sat there and I looked over to my left and I saw basically the 3 or 4 guys that were the leaders of our group coming in, pistols in the air, screaming as they pushed through the crowd. Captain Yahya, who was one of the oldest guys, pushed through. He came around behind me and I thought, right, I'm going to end this. I have about 10 seconds to live. This guy's just going to put a cap in the back of my head and it's going to be done. We're ripped to our feet. Amanda was actually dragged then in front of me with this woman who's in black doing her best rugby tackle, hanging off her waist as they're pulling her away. I'm trying to back into a corner. People are yelling at me. People are trying to slap me. Trying to see what's happening with Amanda. Going back, like can't see. And then I lose track of Amanda. Can't see her at all. And then I hear this. And I think, she's dead. They've just killed her. And I'm next. And the guys that had taken Amanda then come back. Ahmed with his pistol comes up and wraps me across the side of the head, across the neck, across the shoulder, so I drop into fetal position on the ground. I'm getting kicked, I'm getting punched, and then I feel my legs being grabbed around the ankles, and they dragged me towards the front. Towards the front of the mosque. Human beings are terrified of death. And in that split second, I was actually so calm. I thought I was going to be terrified, but this calmness had come over me. And as I'm being dragged, I can remember two thoughts coming into my head. First was, I really wish I could get my hands on a mobile phone just to call mum and dad. I just wish I could call my mum and dad and tell them how sorry for the stress, the anxiety, the trouble that I had caused them for the last 5 months. And the other thing that I wanted to say to them was, I love you, because I didn't think I was ever going to get that chance again. So I get dragged down the steps, down concrete steps. I can feel skin coming off my elbows. I then get picked up by about 6 or 7 guys over their heads as I'm now walking towards the front of the courtyard. And I know as soon as I get off hallowed turf, I'm dead. Dead as a doornail. And just as we walk out those gates, I look over my left shoulder and I could see the 2 vehicles that we're always transported in. And I see Amanda, alive, in the back seat, lying on her back, kicking a guy in the face. Still trying to get away, still fighting. And they throw me in beside her. One guy jumps in with a pistol and is pointing at me. Another guy jumps in beside Amanda, pistol pointing at her. And I look at her face and I can see she's copped a punch straight to the eye. And her eye's starting to swell up. And she has this ludicrous smile on her face. And she looks at me and no word of a lie, she says, "Fuck, that was intense." And I look at her and I say, yeah, that was pretty fucking intense. I'm not quite sure if I've shit my pants, but that was pretty scary. And then she sat beside me and she said, "Nige, I'm so sorry I made you escape." And I said, "Amanda, you didn't make me do anything. Like, we agreed. We actually did this. We took the power back for 20, 25 minutes. We actually had control of our lives, not them." The thing that we didn't realise, though, was the problem that we had created. So we had embarrassed our captors. Like in Asia and Africa, there is a thing called losing face. We'd embarrassed our captors in front of their community, and we were going to pay for it. So we were taken to a house, we were interrogated for about 3.5 hours, the whole time saying, "We're sorry, we didn't mean to escape. Please don't hurt us, please don't beat us. We didn't mean to escape." And I'm sitting there on the floor, and a young guy walks in with a bag similar to this. And he drops 2 sets of chains, 2 long sets of chains. And all I can think is, they're going to beat us to death with these chains. One of them clicks their fingers at me and says, "Come." So I come and I sit down beside him. They then drop 2 sets of padlocks out on the ground. And then I go, okay, they're not going to kill us, they're actually going to shackle us like animals. And they put chains very similar to these around my ankles, so I can spread my legs literally that far. So for the next 10.5 months, nearly 10.5 months, I am in chains. I'm allowed to take those chains off for 2 hours to do some exercise. I'm not allowed to I'm not allowed to stand. I'm forced to sit or lie 24 hours a day. This is where I find my strength in my struggle. My captors think they are doing the most inhumane thing to me possibly. What they're actually doing is empowering me, because I know the only thing they can't touch is my mind. If I can control my mind, I can survive this. One of the greatest books that I had in captivity, which came in a care package as well, was Nelson Mandela's Long Walk to Freedom. I read it 75 times. Pretty hard to read a book twice. Try 75 times when you know what's going to happen on the next page, verbatim. But his book was amazing. Because I took from his story 28 years of torture, being locked up, and he came out of it with a solid, sound mind, and a mind that was able to forgive. Actually, before I do that, in those 10.5 months, we were treated so inhumanely. We were tortured. I'm pretty sure Amanda was sexually assaulted and raped. We were put on a starvation diet, sleep deprivation, those sorts of things. I want to give you a very small insight into a pretty horrific time in those 10.5 months. I will give you a warning, it is fairly upsetting. This was a phone call between Amanda and her mother after 3 days of being tortured. So I had to listen to her being tortured for 3 days. At first, when they started torturing her, I thought, okay, within half an hour they're going to come through the door and they're going to start doing the same to me. So she was tortured for 3 days and then put on the phone to her mother.
Hello? Amanda. 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 Amanda.
Okay, things have changed here. Mom, you need to pay the money now. You need to pay the $100 now because they've started to torture me.
Amanda, listen. Amanda, listen to me. Amanda, listen to me. We are doing everything that we can.
Lots of wet eyes from the ladies in the room. It's a pretty horrific thing that another human being can do that, well, that we do that to each other. I came out of captivity, I guess, slightly broken. I had to do a lot of work with psychologists. I was 61 kilos, been passing blood, so there was the physical thing. But for me, it was the mental thing. I came out, I was angry. We were eventually released, obviously. My family ended up paying over $500,000 US for both Amanda and I to come home safely. So that's the cash on the table that was basically sent into Somalia, and it was picked up by two, my sister called them lovingly knuckle draggers, so two ex-SAS guys from the UK. This is a picture of me the day we flew out of Mogadishu, and basically once we had crossed into Kenya. That was the smile on my face. I was so happy. The extraction team that actually picked us up, is there any Kiwis in the room? There's always a couple. Can't keep them out. So one of the extraction team was a Kiwi, and I've got to say I've never been so happy to see a Kiwi in my life. And he injected humour where humour was needed, and he gave me a big hug and he said, "Nigel, it's awesome to finally meet you. I've got a can of Foster's for you in the plane, bro." And I said, "God, you're a jerk." And then he said, "Mate, has not been a good year for sport." And I said, "You are a sheep shagger." And he goes, no, you lost the Ashes, you lost the Bledisloe, and the Silver Fern beat you in the netball." And he said, "I've met your sister, she can drink." And I said, "You've obviously spent some time with her." But coming home, I met my family, and I was angry. I was angry at my captors. I was angry at myself for putting myself in that situation, for what I'd done to my family. I had a lot of guilt, a lot of shame. And like I said, Mandela, this man is amazing. So no one is born hating another person because of the colour of his skin or his background or his religion. People must learn to hate. And if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. For love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. I had to learn to forgive myself, to forgive my captors for what I had been through. I was consumed when I first got out. by wanting my captors to be killed. And the only person it was affecting was me. It's a bit like jealousy. The only person that affects is you, because the other people are getting on with their life. And it's a process. It's a process that I think I still go through. Now, when I talk about forgiveness, this gentleman here on the screen was arrested about 5 or 6 months ago. He was known to me in captivity as Adam. He was the guy that was dealing directly with my sister, making phone calls, making demands. He was captured in Canada. He was taken, well, he actually travelled there on the roost to tell his side of the story with a book deal, so he wasn't that smart. So I find this out. I'm actually contacted by, I have a guy at the Australian Federal Police who debriefed me, who rang me and said, Nigel, just wanted to give you a heads up. There's some major news about to hit in regards to your case. So I get on social media, get on my Twitter account and say, finally justice will be served, #karma. And my beautiful partner, Alana, looks at my Twitter account and says, you're an idiot. Get off social media. And I think about it, and then and it gets a lot of retweets, lots of likes. 2 days later, I actually say, I retract my statement because in a Western country, everyone deserves a free and fair trial, and it shouldn't be trialed by the media. Doesn't get one like, doesn't get one retweet. I hope at some point I will get to fly to Canada for his trial. People say, do you want to abuse him? It's like, I have no need to abuse him. I actually want to embrace him and give him a hug and say, thank you for making me a better person. By doing what you did to me, you actually made me stop externalizing. You took away everything, all of my toys, and you actually made me shine a light. And you made me look inside myself at the person who I was. And I can tell you there's some things there that I didn't like. Things when I was a younger man, the way that I'd spoken to people, the way that I'd communicated to people who I thought I had wronged, and I rang them when I came home and I said, look, I need to apologise for what I did to you 20 years ago, the way I spoke to you. And most of them said, I don't actually remember it like that, but it's so nice that you were thinking about me in captivity. So I talked about teamwork and I talked about communication. You can't do things alone in life. Human beings aren't meant to be separated from each other. I can tell you after 10.5 months, I came home and all I wanted to do was talk. And I was amazed at the smartphone technology. I don't know why they call them smart, because they make us all dumb, because all we do is we walk around like this and we forget to talk. We forget to acknowledge people. We forget to show how grateful we are. Those sorts of things. And I used to sit on trains and talk to people and people go, weirdo. It's like, no, you have no idea. I haven't been able to talk for 10.5 months to anyone. So I'm going to finish off. I guess this was a quote I found the other day, and it really sums up how I feel about my captivity. I am grateful that I went through that experience. That may sound really strange, but I came out with a greater appreciation for my family. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here today talking to you. Having greater empathy, compassion, understanding, being grateful for the things that I have in life. We live in an amazing country. We are incredibly lucky. We are from the lucky country. We are all in this room in that 1% of people that hold the wealth in the world. So when you're having a bad day, think about the people who aren't as lucky as us. Now, one thing I promised myself whilst I was in captivity, that if I did come out alive, I had this bucket list, if you want to call it, of things that I was going to do. One of them was to learn how to surf. I still haven't done. Learn a second language, still haven't done. Sail. I sailed halfway around the world. I didn't go down to the local sailing club. I actually got on a 70-foot ocean racer and sailed from London to WA. And after 3 days, I realised I wasn't an ocean racer because I was throwing up the whole time. But I'm glad I did it. I ticked it off. But the one thing that I promised myself was I would have a family. So 10 weeks ago, at home, with my beautiful partner Elena and our 3 midwives. She gave birth to a very healthy little boy called Rumi Bear, the best thing that has ever happened to me yet in this life. He's going to teach me, like I taught my parents, a few things in life. I'm sure he's going to cause me a lot of stress and anxiety, but I think all of that stress and anxiety is worth it for the love that he gives me. To finish off, one thing I would ask that you all do, not buy my book. This is obviously the book that I've written. I do have copies at the back. The one thing I would love you all to do is actually to go home tonight, whether it's your partner, your child, your brother, your sister, your mum, your dad, your best friend, whether you can do it face to face would be nice, but if it means picking up a phone, actually ringing that person, standing in front of that person and saying how grateful you are for having them in your life and how much you love them, because you don't actually know when you will get that chance again, because your life can spin on a dime. You can be sailing along one day and then the next proverbial shit hits the fan. But just remember, when you do face a trauma in your life, embrace it, grab it by the horns, and you'll find that when you get through your trauma, because nothing lasts forever, law of nature is everything is impermanent, and this too shall pass. You will come out the other side, you will have a greater understanding of yourself, and you'll have a greater appreciation for your life. People talk about post-traumatic stress disorder. I call it post-traumatic growth phenomenon. 75% of us will come out the other side of a major trauma, and we will be better people for it. So don't run away from trauma. Embrace it. Thank you very much.